This is my aunt, Shelly Joseph Cordell. She was shot and killed at the Hennepin County Government Center courthouse on September 29th, 2003. The woman who murdered Shelly by shooting her 4 times purchased the gun she used for $60 at a gun show with no background check required. Currently, selling guns without a background check at a gun show is completely illegal in Minnesota. I'm determined to see that change in order to prevent more Minnesotan citizens from experiencing the enormous pain that my family has now been living with for 12 years. My Aunt Shelly was an amazing woman. Family always came first with her. She was like a second mother to me growing up. She was full of warmth, and her laughter would fill a room, and it often did, as Shelly hosted every holiday and every family gathering in her home. Shelly would have done anything for her family, and I have no doubt that if it had been me who was shot and killed that day, she'd be here now doing everything in her power to change things and make sure that no other family has to live through the hell of having a loved one taken by gun violence. Being here today is the best way I know to honor the incredible aunt that was taken from me unnecessarily and make sure that something positive comes from this horrible tragedy. Despite the senseless murder of my Aunt Shelly, despite the recent shooting at a St. Paul law office committed by a prohibited purchaser, and despite the gun violence in Minnesota that happens every day and doesn't even make the headlines, like domestic violence and gun suicide, many of our lawmakers have been complacent at best. Now that can change. Our Minnesota lawmakers have the opportunity to actually do something to prevent future tragedies. SF 2493 closes a dangerous loophole in our background checks law by ensuring every gun purchaser undergoes a background check. This will prevent felons, domestic abusers, rapists, murderers, and the dangerously mentally ill from obtaining guns. These are people who pose a significant risk of doing harm to themselves and to others. Shelly will never meet her 3 gorgeous grandchildren, and my 2 kids will never know the joy of receiving one of Aunt Shelly's big hugs as they enter her home each holiday. I never could have imagined that my Aunt Shelly would become one of the more than 90 Americans a day killed by someone with a gun. But that is my reality and the reality for my family. I know I can't go back and change what happened, and I know that there is not one solution to ending all gun violence. But I hope that by sharing my personal story and encouraging members of this committee to work with their colleagues and to take action to close the background check loopholes, it will prevent other nieces, daughters, and mothers from having to sit here and tell you how their lives have been torn apart by gun violence. In my Aunt Shelly's memory, I ask you to please support SF 2493. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Joseph.